A few days ago, I had just gotten off lectures and I already went to the bus stop to go catch my bus to the train station. And as I waited impatiently in the cold, a young man joined me at the bus stop. Now, a few minutes had passed and a colleague of his walked up to him and exchanged greetings. In that 3 minutes conversation, I was able to pick up something important which actually inspired this video. And the conversation went towards, "Hi, how are you doing?" Guy B says, "I'm fine." So Guy A says in a painful tone, "Well, I just got divorced and it's been tough." Then Guy B replies by saying, "Oh, I'm sorry, but I just got married." Now Guy A, feeling very bad, apologizes to Guy B, who is probably in the first week of his marriage. As Guy A exhales the fumes from his electronic cigar, I could see and tell that he was heartbroken and that he was very, very unhappy. A lot of people measure happiness with their present condition, and so they live in the mirage of what they think is the definition of true happiness. The world today makes us believe that we can only derive happiness by winning a pageant or going on vacations or even buying that Ferrari. Many seek for happiness in the wrong places like Instagram, Facebook, where they are being mesmerized by the likes and comments from strangers who would actually throw them under the bus at the slightest opportunity of a flop. I think that the concept of happiness has to do with the mind state of satisfaction. Remember, I said the mind state of satisfaction. Listen, the mind has to do with our consciousness and our thought process. So it's our duty to protect it. Ensure you are conscious enough to avoid measuring your happiness on the fleeting circumstance. Make efforts to get to a point of conditioning your mind where you are psychologically and emotionally aware and contented with the journey or process, no matter the events being presented by your environment. If you don't get the job you applied for, it should not define your happiness. Rather, keep applying, form networks, pray, re-strategize, think positively, and you will be amazed at how tremendously your life will be transformed. Join me as I introduce my guests who will be talking about what she thinks true happiness is. Friend with me, Esther, who is currently visiting the US from the UK for a business trip. So introduce yourself.
Hi everyone, my name is Esther. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm based in the UK and I'm currently in the US briefly for business, and I'm super excited to be with Bims. I think it's lovely work that she's doing.
Thank you.
You guys need to subscribe, support, hit that like button.
You should.
You know.
Okay, let's just get down into it. How would you define happiness?
Okay, so for me, I think that happiness is a temporary feeling. Now, if I want to see happiness from and this is my personal opinion, I think happiness is a temporary feeling. It's because it's dependent on what happens. So maybe, for example, you have your day all planned out and things go as planned, you're happy. But then another day you have your day all planned out and then you get in your car and your car doesn't start, or there's traffic, or somebody annoys you, and that whole thing makes you unhappy. So I think it's really dependent on circumstances. It's really dependent on situations. I would go for something more than happiness, and that's joy.
Okay.
Because joy comes from the inside out. Joy comes from having a very well balanced and well defined understanding of who you are, you know, as a child of God, as God's special creation, as someone that God really loves. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah.
Okay, you just mentioned happiness, like, and you separated happiness from joy. So my question is, do you think people measure happiness? Do you think, because what I'm trying to now to understand based on your own statement is happiness is something that is dependent on a particular circumstance compared to joy. So do you think these days, based on what you've seen from friends, you've observed people and all of that, do you feel it's being measured? Or what do you think is the ultimate?
Okay, again, this is my personal opinion. I think a lot of people are unhappy. I really do think a lot of people are unhappy because, like I said earlier, I think that happiness is dependent on circumstances, what happens, or what doesn't happen, So I think a lot of people are yet to discover themselves. They are yet to be self-aware. They are yet to have an understanding of who they really are as children of God, their identity. A lot of people are confused about their identity, and so they look to things, a job, getting married, having a child, having a nice car, having a nice boyfriend, having some certain kind of friends. They look to those things to make them happy. But when you rip all of that off, and then you are laid bare with yourself and you look in the mirror every morning, you should ask yourself the question, am I truly happy? If you cannot answer that question honestly, then you need some soul searching.
Okay. Thank you for that. So it means, based on what you've said, it's important that we are happy as human beings, and there is the ultimate one, which is joy.
Absolutely.
So that's what you're trying to say?
Yes.
Okay. So what do you think are people's misconceptions about what happiness is?
I think a lot of people confuse happiness and joy. Like I mentioned earlier, happiness is temporary, joy is permanent. Happiness is when something happens, and it pleases you, and it's that momentary burst of excitement that, oh yay, yippee. But then after that, if things don't go according to plan, or some other things happen that doesn't lead to an ideal state, you find yourself unhappy. But joy, and I say this from personal experience, ever since I have taken my relationship with God, more seriously, trying to spend time with God, reading my Bible, praying, trying to understand myself, trying to, in view of how God sees me, trying to understand what life really is about, because I think that's another thing people don't get.
Yeah.
We just go about our day, and we really don't understand what's life about. There has to be more. And I reached a certain point in my life where I didn't have a job. I wasn't happy in my marriage, and it was that point where I really had to stop and think and go to God, because we have the Bible, which I like to call our manual for life. I just spent time. So I blocked out all distractions, and I spent about 2 weeks or more, reading different books on the Bible of the Bible, and I had this sudden revelation, like, oh my goodness, this is what life is about. We are created by God to fulfill His purpose. That's what God created us. That's the plan God had for creation from the get-go. And so if you are not in that will of God, if you are not walking in that will of God, if you are not spending time with God to understand what your purpose is, to understand the unique assignment that God has given you, you find yourself like all worked up. You find yourself frustrated. You find yourself struggling. You find yourself doing things that you really don't have any business doing, because you really don't understand. But once you get that revelation, once you get that insight that there's actually more to life than my job. There's more to life than marriage. Don't get me wrong. Marriage is beautiful. Marriage is a beautiful thing, but there's more to it. It's about that one-to-one, that intimacy, that relationship, that fellowship with God. That is what fills you up. That is what satisfies you. That makes you whole. It makes you complete. And then when you understand that, you have this feeling coming from the inside of you, and that's joy. And that's joy that you have regardless of what is happening around you. And it gives you that very fresh perspective. Every time things don't go your way, every time situations don't turn out as planned, you can just stop and take a deep breath and say, you know, God, I don't understand what is happening, but I choose to trust you. I thank you because you're in control. And that's what I've been doing lately. And trust me, I was telling her before I came on here, I was telling her how much I've gained weight, and I've gained weight because I love my new weight. And I've gained weight because I've stopped struggling and I've stopped trying to figure out things by myself.
That's
I've
key.
stopped trying to figure out things by myself, and I've learned, and I'm still learning, because it's a continuous process. It's a daily process. We have to get in the presence of God every day, every minute, every second, you know, to ask God, to speak to God, to, you know, hear from him, you know, so that we can. Life is crazy, man. Life is crazy.
I'm telling you, it's crazy. It's crazy. You have to life is crazy. It doesn't.
Life is crazy. It's stress. It's so stressful, and if you do not stop to draw on strength, to draw on wisdom, to allow God to fill you and to allow God to satisfy you, so that what comes in from the inside of you is something that you can share with everybody. You know. So yeah. So joy really is permanent, and I think people should strive to have joy by going back to your maker, going back to the beginning, sitting down with yourself really and asking yourself, what really matters to me in this life? And let it come from the inside of you. And I bet you people will see you and you'll be radiating, because it's from the inside out. Not external factors affecting you from the outside. It's from the inside out. So you have this buffer, you have this shield that protects you when life is trying to hit you with separate things, and you're like, nope, not today, devil. I refuse to I refuse to, you know, lose my joy. I'm going to share a brief story. So I was supposed to fly into the US on a Friday.
Okay.
And then I got to the airport. I got a ticket with an Irish airline. And I got to the airport. It was a morning flight. I got to the airport. My husband dropped me off, and he walked me to the backdrop. And then I told the lady I met, oh, I'm going to the US. I gave her my passport. She asked me if I had a US visa. You know, I'm in Nigeria. So I gave her my Nigerian passport. So she asked me if I had a US visa. I said, oh yeah, it's in there. And then she says, oh, that you need a transit visa to go through Dublin. Since I'm flying through Dublin, I'm like, okay,
you know, Nigerian passports.
Yeah. So apparently, Nigeria is on the list of countries that you need to get a transit visa if you are flying through Dublin. Yep, Nigeria is on that list. So please, before you book tickets flying through a particular country, please go online, ask Google is our friend. Go online and do your research, you know. But long story short, I couldn't fly that morning because they told me that since I didn't have a transit visa, that I couldn't even get to Dublin. And you know, and that was like, this was early in the morning. My husband had dropped me at the airport. I'm like, oh my goodness, this is a ticket that I had bought months before because I had planned my trip. So you can imagine how I felt that morning. And, you know, when it happened, I was just talking to myself, Tamna, you know what? As in, if it was me or before, I would have been, you know, fuming and be angry and, you know, and all of that. I was calm. I was calm, you know. It was annoying, to be honest. It was irritating. But I was calm because I just said a prayer in my head. I was like, God, I don't understand what is happening, but I trust you. I trust that you're in control. You know, I trust that you are working this whole thing out. You know, and even if I had to buy a direct flight ticket, which was more expensive, but you know, I was okay. I had my joy, I had my peace intact. And as my husband was driving us back home, I told him, I said, I'm not going to allow this thing to affect me. I'm not going to allow it to affect me. I'm not going to be bothered. The reason for my trip must be accomplished. But you know, and it's that kind of mindset. You need to get to that place where you tell yourself that you're not going to allow anything bother you, because the God that we serve, oh my goodness, have you met my Jesus? Listen. Yeah, so
okay, I've really listen to all what you've said, and focusing on happiness, I think, just like you said, some people are actually married and are not happy.
Yeah.
They love the person they are married to. They are okay with them, but they are not happy. I'm like, why? Why is that so? And I think in the few years that I'm on earth, and I'm going to live longer,
Amen.
I think what I've observed is that one should be happy with oneself first,
Absolutely.
before getting involved with like
Another person.
Mm-hmm. Because even if you have that job, even if you have that husband, it's still not going to complete you. That's the word to use. So when you get to the bed at night, you now lie down and say, okay, what's next? And I feel like, because our needs are insatiable, even if we get the job, and you will still feel like there's something missing. And that's where God comes in. You would always feel that way if you feel buying the house, buying the cars, whatever, a comfortable life, living abroad is the main deal, is the real life, man. I'm telling you, it's true. It's just, you're not deceiving yourself. God is just the paramount, and that's the truth. Okay, so I think you've said part of your experience. So through your journey in life, how did you get to that point of saying, okay, you know what, this is this is where my happiness is inched to? I did get to that point where I know you didn't come out feeling happy as a child. You just woke up and say, no, they gave birth to me, and I'm happy as a person. Where did you get to that point where that was your melting point, your transformation?
I think a year or two after I moved to the UK. So, of course, I was living and working in Lagos, Nigeria, independent Lagos babe,
Lagos girl.
And I moved to the UK, and I didn't have a job. I was job hunting. I had to be dependent on my husband, and I was frustrated, to be honest. I was frustrated because it meant that, number one, I had left my comfort zone. Number two, I now had to be dependent on my husband, and
I'm not used to it.
I'm not used to it. I'm not used. I'm like, I don't have to ask you for money. For things. No. So, and I took out a lot of my frustration on my husband, really. I took out a lot of frustration on my husband. And sadly, when as a married couple, if both of you are not united, if you are not one, whatever each spouse is trying to do, God is going to rubbish it. Now I'm saying this from my own personal experience. God is going to rubbish it because you are not in alignment with the man or with the spouse that he has given to you. Because I see my husband as a blessing from God. I went to God to pray for a husband, and God blessed me with one. And so Pius is like a gift to me that I cannot mismanage, or I cannot do anyhow. And when I was doing him anyhow, and I'll get on my knees and I'll pray for that job, fast. I will fast. I will pray. I will sow seed. Go to church. Do vigil. Hallelujah challenge.
I know.
Everything fell on deaf ears. You know why? Because in my heart of hearts, I was angry with my husband. I wasn't happy. And so we were not together. And the problem was with me. The problem was with me. So I had to come to terms when I was trying a lot of things and nothing was happening. I would get a job and I would be unhappy with the job. Things are not just working out. I think I just had to just stop and retrace my steps. And as I started to spend time with God, reading the Bible, and just morning, to be honest, morning and night, and my husband would leave work, go to work and come back and see me reading my Bible, because I just needed to make meaning of what was happening. When you move as an adult, as a grown adult, a mature adult, to the abroad, it's tough. it's tough on you mentally, it's tough on you emotionally, and sometimes it's even tough financially. Thank God that God was faithful and we really didn't struggle with money issues, but it was tough on me mentally and it was tough on me emotionally because I had to learn, I had to relearn, especially learning how to drive. I'm used to driving on the left, and I have to learn how to drive on the right. So it was a whole lot of things that I had to unlearn and relearn. And that was hard. And to be honest, the only way I got through, the only way I knew I could get through, because I really didn't have anybody that I could pour out my heart to. The only person I could go to that would really understand was God. And so I had this like moment with God where he took me down memory lane and showed me how he had been with me all through the time when I was born. And that was my breaking point, really, because I felt ashamed, and I had to plead with God for forgiveness that I had been ungrateful. God had been faithful, God had been consistent, God had blessed me, and I had been ungrateful. And all that was on my mind was to get a job. And to be honest, I didn't even want a job because, I wanted a job because I wanted to support my husband so that he's not the one paying all the bills. But I also wanted a job because I wanted to be in control. I wanted, I'm like, I don't want to be asking this man for money. I have my
independence.
I have my own money. So this was me being independent, single independent, me trying to bring that me into my marriage. And God was looking at me and said, young lady, it can't work.
I'm just there to support.
You are a support. You must listen to your husband. You must follow your husband. You must agree with your husband. So that was the breaking point for me, really. That realization, that revelation that the only way that I would grow, or the main way that I would grow out of whatever guts, whatever rut, that I was in, was to be totally dependent on God by being dependent on my husband. And that was it for me. Once I got that, every other thing started to fall in place. I will be honest, it wasn't easy, but I thank God that God is so patient with us that whenever we stumble, he doesn't hit us on the head and say, are you daft? Are you stupid? Can't you get it? He lovingly picks us up and puts us on the right path. So that was it for me. Moving from the UK, moving from
Nigeria.
Lagos, moving from Nigeria to the UK, that whole process. But God was faithful. He is faithful.
He is faithful. Well, thank you for that mind-opening, eye-opening experience. I just have to say right now, the explanation about happiness, joy, and that's the ultimate is joy, because happiness is something that it's not permanent. Let's look at it. Let's face the reality. It's really not permanent. It's good for you to be happy, but when you say true happiness, like true deep happiness, it comes from joy. Like it starts from when you are joyful. No matter what happens around you, you will always be happy, and that's the truth. This is not about being too spiritual, but it's just the truth. Joy is paramount, like flows from the heart. So no matter what happens around you, you are still your joy is still there. Can't be still just there. Just standing firm. Well, thanks a lot for joining me on my YouTube channel.
Thank you for having me.
And hope to have you very soon again.
Yes.
Okay, guys. If you've not subscribed to this channel, go and subscribe. I've been on 100 and something subscribers since. Go and subscribe.
Help somebody's career.
Be nice. This is 2020. 2020. Be nice. Anyway, guys, thanks.